What is up, everybody? This is your boy AJTRIP, and welcome to the Word According to Me. In this episode, we are going to talk about the college football playoff expansion and how it should be and how it should look and what I hope not to see. Now, after this success of the 12-team college football playoff this past college football season. Obviously, there's been talk about expansion. They look to be expanding to 14, possibly in 2027 or no, 2026 or 2027, one of those two. And then obviously, of course, we're gonna hit. It would expand from 14 to 16 teams, and I think all of this is good for college football, especially when all other levels of football, college football, division, you know, 2, 3, the FCS, all have a 16 team playoff. And I think that makes sense. That makes the most sense in the world to me to go to a 16 team playoff. But there has been talk because of what has gone down this past year with the 12-team playoff that there people have wanted changes to this. And these changes are, for quite honestly, fucking stupid. And all these changes are changes so that, they can be exclusionary and not inclusionary. And what I mean by that is that in this first 12-team college football playoff, we had a team that came out of nowhere in Indiana make the college football playoff. We had Boise State become one of the group of five, uh, the highest ranked group of five team to make the playoff. We had Arizona State who won the Big 12. Maybe someone wasn't, kind of a shock out of nowhere win, but make the college football playoff. With the latter two, not only making the college football playoff, but getting a bye, right? And then also we had SMU, who's now in the ACC, make the college football playoff as well. And all four of these teams made the college football playoff over traditional powers of Alabama and Miami and some very good teams in South Carolina and Ole Miss. And everybody got on the back. I really personally think this is Alabama because everybody wants to say that Alabama, because of what Nick Saban has done, Alabama is a king of college football, and they have to be, right? And they're part of the SEC, and South Carolina and Ole Miss are part of the SEC, and you need more SEC teams, don't you? In the college football playoff. And here's my thing. Fuck that. You know, the teams deserve to make it. SMU deserved to make it. They took Clemson to the final destination. Clemson had a good lead on them. They came back in the ACC playoff. They tied it up. Unfortunately, they allowed a long kickoff. Got a pass down the field, and the kicker made a 59 or 57 some yard field goal at the last second to win, and Clemson was in. Otherwise, Clemson would not have been in, and Alabama probably would have been in, or Miami, one of those two. I'm not sure, but because Clemson got in, they got in, right? So then there's all these talk about, well, some things need to change, and things need to change. And one of the things that you hear about, that needs to change is the way that they do the seating. There's no reasoning that Arizona State and Boise State should have gotten buys, and Georgia and along with Georgia and Oregon. That instead of giving the buy to the four highest ranked conference uh, conference champions, you should just give it to the first four seeds. And that instead of you having to do all of this, right? It's just the top 12 teams get in. Well, see, and here's what's wrong with that. Unless you make it a point to say that the five conference champions, the Power Four, and then the highest group of five. If you make it a point to say that those five have to be in the top 12, then I'm fine. And maybe you don't even say like thing. You just say and maybe you don't even say that the five, the Power Four, just the highest champions, five, five conference champions have to get, have to be in the top 12. Then fine, I may be okay with that. But I think what this did was great because this did exactly what it is. It gave the schools the opportunity for upset. It gave Arizona State an opportunity to upset. Was it Texas? I think it was Texas. Um, Boise State opportunity to upstate Penn State. SMU before Boise State to upset Penn State. All of those things. And this has been said and people like that. People were talking about the type of games, the first round games weren't intriguing, and hell, even maybe some of the second round games weren't that intriguing as well. For the most part, Georgia, Notre Dame did beat Georgia in a pretty close one, and then like I said, Arizona State came back on Texas. Um, and then Oregon be the number one seed to have to face Ohio State, and not have an easier path. That seems to be kind of wrong. Well, no, this was a good first, you know, thing, and you got what you wanted. The college football playoff should be, what the tournament is, the NCAA tournament, in March Madness, and that is that you want matchups, and you want the underdog, the Cinderella, to try to get far. You want to have those VCU moments. You want to have those Butler moments. You want to have those um, other moments from a couple of years ago. The team that was from New Jersey, that was like the Penguins or the Pigeons or something. You know, that went to like the Elite Eight or Final Four or something like that. And the George Masons, the Florida Gulf Coast things. You know, you want those teams to get. You want to see those teams. I know there are people out there that says not me. I want the Blue Buds. After the first round, after what is it? After the first two rounds, once we get to the second weekend of March Madness, I just want blue bloods. I just want blue bloods. I don't want things like that. You don't want to see Loyola Chicago in the Final Four. You want it to be Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, and Kansas. You want it to be, you know, you want it to be UCLA, Michigan State, and anybody else. And you want it to be Gonzaga and all those things, right? The teams that who get there each and every year. And there are some people out there like that, but I think most of the people, they want to see the Senators. They want to see the upsets. They want to root for the George Masons and the Loyola Chicagos of the world. And they not only that, but they also want to root for teams who are not on that level, but maybe also are still kind of Cinderellas. Maybe a team that comes out of nowhere, like Florida Atlantic University a couple years ago, or San Diego State a couple years ago. I think when UConn won it the first time. Maybe, maybe those are Cinderella, or maybe it's something like, I don't know, like Northwestern. Northwestern for years had never made to March Madness, and then 7, 8 years ago, they made it for the first time, and I think the entire country was rooting for Northwestern to try to make it. I think they get to the second round, and it didn't work out, right? Um, but yeah, but they wanted to see them in it. Uh, so maybe a team like that. I think that's what some people want in college football. No, I actually think. No, I will say this. I think March Madness. There's a lot something different in March Madness than college football, especially if you've seen it this first year. Now, I will say this first year, people talking about Indiana not being that shouldn't have been there, SMU not shouldn't have been there, Boise State that shouldn't have been there, Arizona State, yada yada yada. And I think this is where they come from, and this really is. I think this really is this fucking SEC bias to have that the SEC is the best conference, and the same thing with the Big Ten. Now the Big Ten is like great teams. And there's been rumors that the SEC and the SEC and the Big Ten they want to change the things because they want more of their teams in the college football playoff. However, the good thing about this, and the reason why I love this, is because all of the chancellors of all of the commissioners of all of the conferences need to um, be unanimous with this. So while the Big Ten and the SEC want the changes so that more of their teams get in, the ACC teams, chancellors and commissioners, and the Big 12 chancellors and commissioners are not going to allow that because that's what you're doing. You're taking teams from them out, and that's not what they're going to want. Yeah, they're not going to want that. So it's not going. So and it's been reported by many people that more than likely the 12-team playoff will not change this year. It will be exactly the same way it was last year, which I think I find is great. Now let's go to the 14 because again, like I said, I believe that there's a chance that in 2026 or 2027 they will be going to a 14-team playoff. Now, how does that look and how does that change? Well, obviously, it would change. There would just be 14 teams. It's mostly like the NFL, right? That's what the NFL has done. It's seven in NFC, seven in AFC. That's 14. So basically, that's what they would do. They would probably do it in a way where the two teams get the bye. And that's something where they might actually have to do that. They would just have to say, well, okay, the top two teams ranked get the bye, and then we would rank, the other 12 by things, but by how we rank them in the college football rankings. But I still think that they should keep the basis of all the four Power Four conference winners, along with the highest ranked group of five should automatically be in the tournament. I think that's something that I am totally steadfast for. That has to stay. That has to stay because with 14, there are still things where we can get things like Indiana and SMU in there and things like that. But what you're gonna do is that if you don't allow that, then you will push the Boise States out of the out of that, and they won't make it. No group of five team would be making it. And actually, in this year, when you looked at it, there was some like top group of five teams: Tulane, Army, and Navy, and there was a couple others that were like ranked in that top 25 college football ranking. Um, that could have had a nice chance of making it to the playoff. Which, by the way, as I say that, mentioned Army and Navy, I'm not sure why Army and Navy has decided to be a standalone game. I'm not sure why they've decided that. But that has to change because we need to get to the college football playoff quicker as we add more teams. So that needs to go back to rivalry Saturday. The Saturday, especially when you think about Army had their championship game. Um, they were in the championship game, the Conference USA, I think, championship game. They were in that game, and then the next week they also had to play Navy. That can't be. So we've got to move Army and Navy back to um to rivalry Saturday, that last one. The thing the Saturday, last Saturday in November, the Saturday of Thanksgiving, whatever it is. That's the one where most of all of the rivalries, commence for the most part, although that has changed now because of conference realignment. We're getting Oregon and Oregon State early in the year for some reason. Same thing with Washington State, I think. And Kansas and Kansas State are not doing it now, and they're doing it early. I'm not sure why we're not getting all of these traditional big rivalries on the end of the year. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State just said, "Fuck it, we're going to stop doing it." Because Oklahoma's in SEC, and they should still be able to do it. But it is as if, fuck it, we're not gonna do it. No more Bedlam. You fucking serious? No more Bedlam. No more backstage brawl. Uh, no more backyard brawl. Pittsburgh and West Virginia. Come on. Anyway, but I still think if you SPG 14, that's what you got to do. You still got to put those group of five conference champions automatically get bids instead of 14-team playoff. And again, because of that, you got to do the top two seeds. That's fine, but they've got to get a bid into the college football playoff. So when they do 14, I think that's how they do it. That's very easy. Now the big thing is going to be 16. When they do go to 16, what you're going to hear is just that it's just the ranking from 1 to 16. Conference champions be damned. All of these damns. People are just going to want you to be 1 through 16. And I say, hell no. Again, I want this to be like March Madness. And what does March Madness do? March Madness doesn't rank teams 1 through 68, and that's how it is. Or maybe they do, and just because it's 68 fucking teams, you're bound to get this. But they do those tournaments, those conference tournaments, and the conference tournament team who wins the conference tournament, they get an automatic bid into the March Madness. And I think, again, that's what needs to happen for the 16-team college football playoff. There are 10 conferences. At some point, there may be 9 because either the Pac-12, either the Pac-12 isn't going to be the Pac-12, and that's not going to, and it's just Oregon and Washington. They tried to get some teams from the Mountain West to join. I don't know if they actually have decided to join or not. I know that was a talking point. So, but I think there's 10 conferences right now. There's 10 conferences. Uh, so I think that if we do get to a point to where there's 16 and we still have 10 conferences, then we need 10 automatic bids. Every conference should have the conference champion should make it to the college football playoff. And then you have 6 wild cards. And the wild cards will be the teams that are the highest ranked in the college football playoff ranking. So if that means that, again, precious Alabama doesn't make it, or Ohio State doesn't make it, or Michigan doesn't make it, or Notre Dame doesn't make it, because you've got Appalachian State, and you've got Florida Atlantic, or you've got Bowling Green, or something like that, because you've got those in the college football playoff, and those other teams don't make it, then fine. That's the way it should be. You know what? Don't lose to Oklahoma, to a 6-6 Oklahoma team if you're in Alabama. Don't lose to Northern Illinois if you're in Notre Dame. Don't. Don't lose to some other squad, you know, some low life squad, that takes you down in the college football rankings. So, I've said this before, and I'm going to continue to say this. It is better to beat nobody than to, no, what was I saying? It is better to beat nobody than to lose to nobody because you're still winning. And I said that because they were talking about Alabama and how and toward SMU and Indiana, and who did Indiana beat? Well, maybe they didn't beat quote unquote nobody, but Alabama lost to two quote unquote nobodies in Vanderbilt and a Oklahoma on a down year. So they lost. So it's still better to win than to lose. So that's why Indiana and SMU are in there. So yes, however many conferences there are, when we get to the 16 team playoff, that conference deserves an automatic bid, and then the rest of the team deserves the wild cards. Now let's talk about the conferences for a minute. We've got this weird conference realignment that's happening where we've got Oklahoma and Texas and the SEC now, and we've got four teams out on the West Coast: Washington, Oregon, USC, and UCLA in the Big Ten that seems to be more Midwest driven. Cal and Stanford are in the ACC when Cal and Stanford are on the West Coast, and the ACC stands for the Atlantic Coast Conference. So that's happening, and I don't know if that can be reworked in any way. I would like to rework it too, because what I think what we could do is because I think we could find a way to get to these large conferences, right? Um, there's one thing what may need to do is we may need to have just put every team into a conference. Notre Dame, UConn, and University of Massachusetts are um, independents. They can no longer be independents. They got to join a conference, and it's got to be geographical. It makes sense for UConn and UMass to be like an ACC or maybe in like Conference USA or something like that. Fine. Notre Dame, obviously they're in the Big Ten. I would like actually if they join a conference. People are gonna want Notre Dame to join the SEC if they're gonna talk about that. It's the fucking North, and then they're in Indiana. Indiana's not in the SEC. Even though in the NFL we've got in the Indianapolis Colts in the AFC South, which is effing ridiculous. It should be Miami, but I'm not going to harp on that. This is college football. So what I'm going to do is that and so I'm not going to put Notre Dame in the SEC. It's the Big Ten. Well, I would like to see maybe in the Big 12. I can see Notre Dame in the Big 12. As a Notre Dame fan, that's what I would personally like to see them. Uh, if they're joining a conference, like to join because I think the Big 12 would be the easiest conference for Notre Dame to win. And I think if they join the Big 12, 8 to 9 times out of 10, they should always win the Big 12. Out of a decade, you know, in the span of a decade, they should win the Big 12 8 or 9 times. You know, so that would just be for me. But that might need to happen if you do a 16 team where you need to have everybody join a conference, and you need to maybe merge some of the conferences as well. So maybe there's not too many conferences. So maybe you've got a bunch of super conferences, right? Which I would be okay with as well. And I would be okay with that. Where it's like 20 teams, right? Each conference has like 20 teams in it, and then you'd go back to divisions, and you'd have one division for the 10 teams, another team, other division full of 10 teams, and if you're a team in that division, you would play the 9 teams in your division. Right? You would play um, the team. How does it? You would play from the other division a team in the same place as you. So if you were the fifth place team in the SEC West, then you would play the fifth. As long as playing the other 9 teams in the SEC West, you would play the fifth team in the SEC East. That would give you 10, and then you would have 2 other games to that you would non-conference games for you to play. And that would make your team your schedule of 12 games. Then along with the conference championship game, things like that, and then yada yada yada. So to me, this works. Who knows if that would happen, but I think I would love to see it happen. So yeah, I I think that's what has to happen when we get into the college football playoff expansion. Let's wrap this thing up, and we'll go back and look over, talk about what I said, and in this video. So to quickly recap, um, 12-team playoff is fine the way it is. There should be no changes to it, and hopefully there won't be. Hopefully, all of the reporting saying that there won't be no changes for the 12-team playoff. I hope that is correct. When they go to a 14-team playoff, yes, I still want them to do the group of 5. That automatically must make it. But yes, we can do like the top 2 ranked teams in the in the rankings are they get the bye, whether they're conference champions or not. Yeah, we can do that. And if we go to 16-team playoff, no, we're not doing the whole 1 through 16 bullshit. We ain't doing that. Every conference gets an automatic bid into the 16-team playoff, whether that's 10, 9, 8, however many conferences there are. Each conference will get a automatic bid, and then the number of wild cards would be the number of those not in conferences, and that's how we're going to do the 16-team playoff. So I've done it for you, college football. So all you gotta do is just follow my thing, and you're gonna have a great. You're gonna be having people like we're in March Madness season, I guess you could say. Get the selection show in a couple weeks away. It's gonna be a very interesting one without Greg Gumbel, passed away. God rest his soul. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, let's get selection Sunday going soon, and people look toward that. When we get to like 16 teams, we are going to be looking for that selection Sunday after the championship Saturday games. We're going to be looking for that. So, and by the way, Army and Navy again have to go back to the Saturday before championship Saturday. We can't be having Army and Navy standalone games. We just can't. We need to get to the college football player quicker as we add more teams. So yeah, there you have it. Those are my things of how I want to see college football playoff expansion. Post your comments down below. Tell me what you guys think. Let me know what you guys want in the college football championship. Expansion playoffs. Do you agree with me? Are you one of you guys that wants just let's put the top 12 teams in, top 14 teams in, top 16 teams in? You want to screw the little guy? Boise State, you want to screw the little guy? Things like that. You just want all blue bloods? Let me know down in the comments. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. This is your boy, AJTRIP, signing off. As always, be good to each other, y'all. Be careful out there. And I am out.